afternoon. Welcome to the Horatio Alger Association's 2020 Board of Directors meeting. I'm Byron Pitts, co-anchor of Nightline for ABC News and a 2017 Horatio Alger Award recipient. It is a pleasure to welcome you to this annual gathering, albeit virtually this year. We can all agree that 2020 has deeply challenged us as members, as well as the scholars we serve. The wonderful rhythm of how we gather, celebrate, and connect with one another has been interrupted. The needs of our scholars, especially with the onset of COVID-19, have become even clearer. As members, we've always found ways to help our scholars in their time of greatest need. And we did so once again through the association's newly created emergency fund. We found hope, as we always do, in our scholars, who demonstrated the resilience we so revere. We know this won't be forever. The association is working diligently to plan opportunities that will allow us to gather again in person in 2021 and beyond. I, for one, can't wait for our next Saturday morning breakfast with our national scholars in Washington, D.C. And while I've never taken the specialness of that event for granted, it will mean even more to me the next time it happens. I'm sure we all feel the same because those are the moments that remind us why this work is so necessary. So as we undertake the business of this meeting, let us not forget that in this year, when our scholars needed us the most, this membership met the moment, embracing new ways for all of us to gather, celebrate, and connect. And now, before I turn the Board of Directors meeting over to our association chairman, Matt Rose, let's take a few minutes to hear directly from a few of our scholars who received emergency funding and how it would help them navigate the challenges of these past months.
Hello, my name is Rafael Batanga, and I'm a first-generation low-income college student. I'm originally from the Philippines. However, I immigrated directly to Kodiak, Alaska when I was 9 years old. And now I am residing in Ithaca, New York, studying at Cornell University's School of Hospitality Administration. I'm very thankful for the funding that I received from the Horatio Alger Association's COVID-19 emergency funding, as it allowed me to fly back home to Alaska back in June. And this would have been 3 months after being kicked out of on-campus housing at Cornell. When I first saw the funding from the association, I initially applied. I really wanted to go home. I received an email one day after being asked to leave my fourth home in less than 3 months, and I couldn't be more thankful for the opportunity to return back to Alaska. I joined my family back in June and stayed there until August. To everyone involved in the funding, whether it be mentally, emotionally, or monetarily, thank you. And this is not only for me, but for the many students who received the support. Again, I'm Rafael Batanga, a first-generation low-income college student who truly benefited from the support of the Horatio Alger Association's COVID-19 Emergency Fund.
Good morning to our West Coast teammates. Good afternoon to everybody else. First, let me offer my thanks to the 2017 award recipient, Byron Pitts, for opening today's Board of Directors meeting and introducing that great video. Well, I'm pleased to be joining you from Texas. I'm sure we all would have been together, rather enjoyed it in San Diego, but today's meeting will be energized nevertheless. I'd like to thank Ernest Rady and Denny Samper, who generously offered to serve as our host for our San Diego board meeting. And we do look forward to the time when we can take them up on their gracious offer. I'm always proud of this association, but given the year that we've all faced, my pride is even greater. Despite the immense challenges, it's an honor to say that Horatio Alger Association is as strong and as vibrant as it's ever been. Every report that you're going to hear today affirms that statement, and while we will discuss enhancing our work and growing the association's impact, We can only have these conversations because of how we've moved through this past year, well prepared and exercising sound decision making at every turn. This is the work and leadership of our board of directors, and for that, I'm thankful to each of you. As I call this meeting to order, let me share how we will move through the next 90 minutes. Several members of the association leadership will be speaking today. They will review the association's financials, programs, activities, and consider additional award recipients for 2021. We'll also discuss our blueprint for the future and more. Now I officially call this meeting to order. We begin with a busy agenda with a report on the Horatio Alger Endowment Fund and our plans moving forward. To present this report, we're joined today by 3 Norman Vincent Peale Award recipients and exceptional advocates for this association. Please welcome Horatio Alger Endowment Fund officers, Chairman and President Walter Scott Jr., Vice President David Sokol, and Director Tony Novelli.
Thank you, Matt. Before discussing our planned endowment campaign, Walter Scott asked me to provide a brief report to the board of directors highlighting the association's endowment finances. Under Walter's leadership, the endowment board has met several times this year to monitor the investment portfolio due to highly volatile markets. We were fortunate enough to begin the year a bit overweight in cash and fixed income. So after the initial declines in the first quarter, the board decided to gradually reposition the portfolio to our target allocation of 45% equities, 45% fixed income, and 10% cash. The process is nearing completion now. As of August 2020, the endowment fund totals $307 million. Of this amount, there is $260 million in cash and investments and $47 million in pledged contributions. The endowment's investment portfolio reflects a pooled investment portfolio consisting of an S&P index fund, fixed income, and cash, as well as several smaller portfolios of fixed income investments. These have been stipulated by donors. Despite the volatility earlier in the year, these investments have earned 5.8% year to date through August, equaling $13.7 million. For 2020, the endowment fund is budgeted to contribute $9.5 million in scholarship funding to the U.S. and Canadian Association. The strong stewardship of the endowment fund by Walter and the board of directors continues to strengthen the association's long-term and positions us well for the new phase of growth. To advance its work, the fund's board will convene again in November. Now I'll turn this report over to David to provide more details.
Thank you, Tony, and good afternoon, everyone. Along with the board, I echo your sentiments about Walter's stewardship of the endowment fund. This work has been foundational to the association's ability to meet the growing need of scholars across the United States and Canada. We owe a debt of gratitude to Walter for his steadfast commitment to our endowment fund. When the association launched its first endowment campaign in 2011, we sought to raise $250 million in just 4 years. We'd identified critical areas for growth that we aimed to endow, including a minimum 500 state scholarships at $10,000 and national scholarships at $25,000 each, which is a $5,000 increase for each state and national scholarship, as well as member and scholar programs and services, including our national visibility efforts. We set a bold goal and what some might view as an aggressive timeline, but we achieved it by 2015. Although we met the total fundraising goal of that first endowment fund campaign, 2 factors affect our ability to use these funds as we had initially intended. First, more than $46 million is in the form of pledges, of which 90% are bequests. The fact that these pledges are uncollected affects the annual amount of discretionary spending by $2.3 million. Second, of the $260 million on hand, 52% is restricted at donors' request to specific programs. Had this $135 million of our endowment not been restricted, available discretionary spending on an annual basis would be higher still by another $6.8 million. I share this because while our endowment has made significant progress since its launch 9 years ago, there is still work for us to do. This is why we propose to set a new and bolder goal and launch another endowment campaign to raise $300 additional million. The proposed new campaign and all pertinent details will be reviewed and approved by the Endowment Fund's board. Raising an additional $300 million will allow the Horatio Alger Association to again endow an additional $5,000 increase for each state and national scholarship. We will also be able to endow 1,200 career and technical education scholarships at $5,000 each, as well as scholar support services and additional engagement opportunities for members and scholars. I'd like to emphasize scholar support services because, as COVID-19 has shown, they are essential for the well-being and academic success of our scholars and need to be safeguarded from disruptive events like COVID-19. In particular, the emergency fund, about which you will learn more shortly, and the mental health resources we provide are key in supporting the whole scholar and maximizing our scholarship investment. Our initial timetable for this campaign was to soft launch it at the membership and board of directors meeting in San Diego, with a goal of $150 million in pledges by the formal launch at 2021. However, with the cancellation of the meeting in San Diego and the ongoing fluidity of this year, we welcome your thoughts regarding the purpose of the campaign and the best strategy to reach this important goal. We would also welcome your feedback during today's Q&A regarding the target date for the conclusion of the new campaign. Should it align with the association's 75th anniversary in 2022, or perhaps the 40th anniversary of our scholarship programs in 2024? While I expect robust discussion around these questions, I know we all agree that we must meet this goal. What this year has shown us with incredible clarity is that a strong endowment is imperative. Our mission is to sustain the American dream for generations to come. But to do that, we must safeguard the scholarships, support services, and engagement programs that make it possible. We must always remember our greatest responsibility is to ensure the seamless operation of the Horatio Alger Association, regardless of unexpected and disruptive events. We cannot let our scholars down. We have been able to successfully navigate 2020 because of the bold goal that we met in 2015. This is the time for us to meet a new goal. Walter, Tony, and I know that we will meet this goal, and we look forward to advancing our plans for the proposed new endowment campaign when we meet in November with the Fund's board. Thank you very much for your time.
Now to report on our association activities this past year, I'm pleased to introduce a gentleman who's been a passionate advocate for the association since his induction in 2015, and who especially stepped up for us in this past year. When we were together for this meeting in Montreal in October 2019, he was elected Vice President of the Association. But due to unforeseen changes, he graciously accepted the role of the Association President while continuing to support our scholars during the uncertainty of these past several months. Please welcome my friend, Jim Dickey.
Thank you, Matt. Before moving further into our agenda, I want to acknowledge and congratulate our fellow member, Barbara Barrett. As you know, Barbara was appointed president of the association last October. However, shortly thereafter, in fact, just 13 days into her tenure, she was appointed Secretary of the United States Air Force. Given this new, well-deserved role, Barbara suspended her presidency and service to the association's board, and I, serving as vice president at the time, then assumed the role of president. In an unprecedented year, This type of change seems almost par for the course. While her tenure as association president may have been brief, Barbara has been a much dedicated Horatio Alger member, always representing the best of our mission and values. Her decision to serve our nation is exactly what we would expect of Barbara. With a special message for us, please welcome Secretary Barbara Barrett.
Thank you, Jim, for those kind words. No doubt you will serve the association with passion, integrity, and distinction as our president. You know, we are living in extraordinary times, and while this year has brought its share of challenges, I continue to be awed by the resilience of America. While I had to step down as association president to assume this new role, I value my lifelong membership in Horatio Alger, as does my husband, Craig, who's a fellow member. I've followed the association's work closely during these past several months, and the way that this association has quickly and generously met the extraordinary and unexpected needs of so many scholars, it has been remarkable. However, it was no surprise. Time and again, our membership steps up when called to serve and when called to lead. These past months have been no exception, and dare I say it has been one of this association's finest moments. We put our scholars at the center of all we do, and when their futures might be at risk, we respond in creative, caring, and extraordinary ways. This is who we are as an association, and as much as our scholars benefit from the educational opportunities provided to them, I have come to believe that the greatest benefit they receive is in knowing that their success is our priority. To my fellow members, I salute you, and I support you in this important work always. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. We wish you all the best and look forward to when you can rejoin the leadership of the association. As I begin my report on the association's activities, I want to reconfirm the critical need for us to be strategic about when we launch the new endowment campaign, which David and Tony presented to us earlier. This year, the association had an insurance policy that covered all revenue lost from the cancellation of the 2020 awards. Next year, however, pandemic coverage will no longer be available in event cancellation policies. As we move forward with the endowment campaign, it is important that we also safeguard the association's operations from another possible cancellation or postponement of the awards. To this end, we are emphasizing our annual Giving Clubs campaign to provide general operating support for the association, while also funding our educational programs and services beyond scholarships. We have begun outreach to members, encouraging them to sign up for Giving Clubs or renew their participation. This outreach will continue until January, when we begin development efforts in support of the awards. Normally, these activities would have begun in November, but due to the ongoing challenges related to COVID-19, we have made the decision to shift the awards from April to October 2021. The annual awards are now scheduled for October 28 to the October 30, 2021. If this change is met positively, we will consider making this shift of the awards from spring to fall permanent based on board approval. We will discuss this decision further during the live Q&A session, but we believe we would like to note that this shift would have a positive impact on the national scholars in attendance, which I will address shortly in more detail. Despite the cancellation of the awards, I'm pleased to report that the association is in excellent financial health. We were fortunate to have the insurance for the 2020 annual awards ceremonies under an event cancellation policy. As a result of the final $9.4 million settlement claim we expect to fund all scholarship awards and other programs while ending the year with a $2 million surplus. Although we did not end up needing it, I would like to extend thanks to the Endowment Fund Board for graciously agreeing to extend a line of credit to the association should it have been necessary to cover 2020 cash needs. Now I would like to introduce John Thornburg, CFO of the association, and Steve Halt, a director of our outsourced accounting partners, Sikich, who have been working with the association for 20 years. They will provide us with additional details regarding the association's finances.
Thank you, Mr. Dickey, and good afternoon, directors. Given the events of this past year, the association's operating revenues have been less than budgeted in 2020 due to the cancellation of the annual award ceremonies related to COVID-19. Nevertheless, we expect to award around $20 million in scholarships as planned, and all other programmatic work has continued unabated. For example, our research and publications have proceeded as scheduled, and we have continued to build our Field Directors Program to help network through high school communities to enhance our scholarship applicant pool. Aside from the cost savings we expect to realize from not being able to hold some of our live events, such as the National Scholars Conference, other expense categories, such as the cost of administering our scholarship programs and our general and administrative expenses, are all on pace for this stage of the year. So as Mr. Dickey mentioned, we do expect a net surplus for the year. Now I would like to introduce Steve Halt, whose firm was formerly known as Halt, Bouzas & Powell prior to a merger. Today, known as Sikich, Steve and his firm are now into their third decade overseeing the association's outsourced accounting arrangement. Steve?
Good afternoon. As you have heard, my firm has been long engaged as the outsourced accountants for the association. In addition to processing more than 12,000 disbursements per year, we also process and record all the association's revenue, investment transactions, payroll, general ledger, monthly statement preparation, and preparation for the annual audit. Following John's comments, you may have noted in your materials that the association's August financial statements show a deficit. This is normal at this time of year because while the association has already recognized most of the scholarship awards, the association will continue to receive scholarship contributions from individual donors through the end of the year. It is also not until late fall, when all the figures are final, that we begin final transfers from the endowment fund. I would also point out that the August financial statements include only $5.2 million of the total $9.4 million event cancellation insurance claim because the insurance company paid the claim in 2 installments. So taking these factors into consideration, the association is about where we would expect, which is similar to where we were at this time last year. Thank you.
Thank you, John and Steve, for your report. With increased communications and reporting to our board and membership, we have been kept abreast of the many accomplishments this association has achieved. I want to highlight just a few of these achievements, which we were also included in the association's impact brochure and the mid-year report, which were distributed to the membership. We have published multiple articles addressing relevant association topics, such as online education and food and housing insecurity among college students. These articles are shared with members and friends to provide insights into the current issues affecting our scholars and the ways in which the association is supporting them. We are producing a 3-book series on nonprofit governance that will be distributed to the membership as well as key partners in the coming year. These books are 10 Traits That Make Nonprofits Great, Investing in People and Communities, and Governing Effective Nonprofits in the 21st Century. A 4-page advertorial appeared in the October Forbes 400 issue to honor the 25 Horatio Alger members included on the list of the 400 wealthiest Americans. This piece also profiled 4 scholars who, like members, are seizing opportunities afforded by the free enterprise system and the association to pursue their visions of the American dream. We are planning to produce a broadcast series featuring members sharing their life stories and perspectives on success, free enterprise, philanthropy, and the American dream. Horatio Alger member Byron Pitts would serve as the host for the program, and we are currently evaluating media partners and broadcast platform options, including Amazon Prime, Netflix, and others. Most importantly, in this year, the association is awarding close to $22 million in need-based scholarships to 2,995 students in the United States and Canada. These scholarships are being funded jointly through the association's operating fund, the Horatio Alger Endowment Fund, and through annual contributions from individual members and friends. These new scholarships will be part of the 8,000 current scholars to whom the association is serving. That's more students than the enrollment at many small colleges, if you think about it. We continue to be pleased that we have not seen a drop in scholarship applications or in scholar enrollment in college during the COVID-19. We believe that our scholar services, including more proactive outreach and emergency support, are just 2 of the reasons for this persistence. Later in our meeting, you will hear a bit more about these key efforts. Of course, this year has seen much of what we do go virtual, just like our meeting today. Our National Scholars Conference went online for a total of 12 hours. During these 3 virtual sessions in May, June, and July, we covered the same content as the in-person conference would have covered. Our membership was proudly represented by 8 members: Wanda Austin, Bob Brown, Vance Cryer, Jewel Kilcher, Daniel Lubetsky, David Sokol, and Nito Cobain, along with my wife Janet and me. We also expanding our online resources and our curriculum. In January, the association will launch a year-long weekly college preparedness program that includes webinars and online workshops to enable our students to transition to college even more successfully. We are considering a change also to our scholarship application process, which would award students in their junior year of high school rather than their senior year. This change will benefit scholars significantly, enabling them to learn about the association and better understand their financial situation before applying to college. This change in timing would further allow the association to advise scholars on college selection and help them navigate the complexity of applying for additional financial aid earlier. Finally, and as I referenced earlier, We believe this change would positively impact the national scholars, especially if the board considers a shift of the awards to the fall. By allowing scholars to attend the awards at the beginning of their senior year in high school rather than near the end, they will have an opportunity to become acquainted with the members, developing connections and mentoring relationships earlier on. Over 3 decades, the Horatio Alger Association has undertaken several research initiatives in support of its educational mission. In 2017, the association embarked on an important longitudinal study to better understand how and why scholars develop as they advance through college. In addition to this longitudinal study, the association is now reviewing the data it has amassed over the decades through the application and scholarship disbursement process to gain insights regarding the factors that lead to the success of Horatio Alger scholars. This research continues to inform and guide how we serve our scholars. Lastly, I would like to take a moment to address the decade of success achieved by the Horatio Alger Association of Canada. A year ago, we celebrated this milestone in Montreal and the many accomplishments achieved during its first 10 years. We are particularly pleased that the Canadian Association has become more financially independent and is continuing to expand its scholarship programs and services for scholars. We are equally pleased that the Canadian Association will be pursuing its own endowment campaign. Unfortunately, COVID-19 has delayed that campaign and canceled this year's Excellence Gala. Nevertheless, Primwasa and the Canadian Board have done a wonderful job in providing leadership for the Canadian Association, and we are confident that its operations will seamlessly and successfully continue. The next annual Excellence Gala is scheduled for November 2021. This concludes my report of the association's activities. Now, Tony Welters, treasurer of the Horatio Alger Association, will provide a brief report about our auditing, governance, and accountability practices. Tony?
Thank you, Jim. One of the most important ways in which we ensure accountability and transparency is through our annual audit conducted by RSM, the 5th largest accounting firm in the United States. RSM has long been a trusted partner, and we continue to be pleased by the outstanding quality of their work and the team of professionals who support the association. That team is led by Bob Billick, the national leader of RSM's nonprofit practice, who brings more than 27 years of experience to our account. Bob and I meet regarding the audit, and I'm fully briefed as part of my role as treasurer. Bob joins us today, as does 2017 Horatio Alger member and audit committee member Linda Rabbit. Linda, Howard Myers, and I form the association's audit committee. Bob will provide us with a report on the association's annual audit, followed by Linda, who will speak to governance. Bob, why don't you take it from here?
Thank you very much for having me here today. I'm here to talk about your audit and the audit process. Just covering a couple highlights on the audit. Overall, the audit went tremendous. John and his team did an outstanding job at providing us the information necessary for the audit, and Steve Holt and his team on getting everything done and wrapped and pushing us to this point. Overall, the audit has a clean, unmodified opinion. That's the best opinion you can get. It was, again, a great job. Assets overall are up $29 million. Investments make up about $12 million of that. In cash, about $24 million up from the previous year, and that's really driven by your endowment being up around $42 million this year. From a great solid year from your statement of activities and revenue and expense side, Liabilities are up $3 million, but that's really driven by your scholarships being up $3 million. So it's a net effect there with the addition of the scholarships at the $3 million level. But overall, very solid. Organization continues to have a solid balance sheet and solid operations from that. There was an adoption of a new standard this year, ASU 2018-08. That was adopted this year, and that really clarifies how you handle contributions and clarifies kind of how you recognize that when it's received. It didn't have a major impact on the organization. There is another component of it is on contributions made, and that's still being researched on how that may affect your scholarship payables as we go forward. That's in an analysis phase now. We're working with John and his team, really taking a look at that and see if it is going to have an impact on scholarships payable and how we record that. It's potential that it could reduce that liability, and we would have to move it to a note for a contingency. The other standard that was not adopted yet, it did get extended, is the leasing standard, which is 842. And that's going to require, again, to put the lease onto your balance sheet. So you'll have an asset and a liability. They'll offset on your balance sheet, but all the future payments will be booked as a liability and an asset that will really drive up your balance sheet, especially in those years when you have a new lease that comes into play. There was no unusual items discussed this year, no significant issues. There was no audit adjustments. Everything was pretty clean there. And really no significant issues discussed during this audit course. So everything, again, went very smooth. At the end of the program today, I'll be around if there is any questions that anyone may have on the audit. I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you, Bob, for that excellent report. Good afternoon, fellow board members. I'm Linda Rabbit, a director and audit committee member for the association. And today I'm reporting on our continued work in governance, notably the association's Charity Navigator rating. As you know, good governance is a hallmark of healthy, thriving organizations. The Horatio Alger Association remains committed to the best-in-class governance. The continued success and stability of the organization, especially this year, is a testament to that. As such, I am pleased to share with you that the association has received its 4th consecutive 4-star rating from Charity Navigator, the leading charity evaluator in the United States. Our consecutive 4-star ratings, which only 20% of charities receive, reflects the association's strong financial health and its focus on accountability and transparency, as demonstrated by its disclosure of the association endowment's 990 tax returns on our website. According to Charity Navigator, the association exceeds industry standards and outperforms most charities, and the 4-star designation sets the association apart from its peers and demonstrates to the public its trustworthiness. We will continue to be attentive to this in the coming year, implementing best practices and holding our association to the highest standards of governance and accountability. Congratulations to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony, Bob, and Linda for your great reports. We're also grateful to the Audit Committee for its work and to RSM for our ongoing partnership and guidance through these times. Now we're going to shift our focus to reviewing nominations for the Horatio Alger Awards. Since becoming president in 2017 and now the association chairman, I've always considered the nomination and selection process of our awards a key priority. This is really the sustainability of our organization. Recruiting qualified new members who are aligned with the association's mission and values while becoming equally committed to supporting our programs and activities financially is imperative for the ongoing success of the association. It's also important that we induct members who remain involved with the association after their induction, not just for one weekend or 1 year. As you know, COVID-19 forced us to postpone the induction of the member class of 2020 until 2021. We're pleased to report that all the incoming new members who have reconfirmed their acceptance of the award and remain enthusiastic about joining our efforts. Before revisiting the list of 2021 inductees, we'd also like to review the eligibility criteria for association membership. which can be found in the nomination form included on page 62 of the board information package, which were mailed to you prior to this meeting. To be considered for the Horatio Alger Award, nominees must be committed to the goals of the association and the purpose for which it was founded. Furthermore, nominees should demonstrate triumph over adversity. The association defines adversity as any significant economic, emotional, physical, or familiar barrier to success that requires exemplary levels of dedication, hard work, and courage to overcome. Achievement of outstanding professional accomplishments through individual initiatives, self-reliance, hard work, commitment to excellence, enthusiasm, integrity, and perseverance. A proven philanthropic record and demonstrated commitment to assisting others in need. And finally, a clear commitment to the free enterprise system. For a nomination to be formally reviewed, the association requires a participation form signed by both the nominator and their nominee. The form indicates in which ways, financial and otherwise, a nominee would support and advance the mission of the association. Prior participation in the association's programs is another great way to assess the nominee's qualification and the likelihood of their ongoing involvement with the association. It remains one of our best indicators that a nominee understands our mission and programs. An additional important consideration in selecting new members is diversity. And in recent years, this has been a priority for the board and consistently highlighted in our nominations related communications with members. Last year, we established an award selection committee to annually review and assess nominations based on adversity, diversity, philanthropy, and financial and other consideration. The committee's recommendations are shared with the executive committee and the endowment fund board. And then the full list with recommendations are shared with the board of directors. We're grateful to Glenn Stearns and Valerie Montgomery Rice for co-chairing the awards selection committee. And that committee also includes Charles Anderson, Patrick Lee, Gil Levasseur, Robert Miller, Nito Cobbin, and Tom Shannon. In the packet circulated prior to today's meeting, we included information about the confirmed 2021 inductees. Under consideration, pending board approval, we may consider adding 3 to 5 more members to the class of 2021. Inducting a larger class will augment development efforts, especially since we were unable to induct a class in 2020. This will also help maintain the current level of the association membership ranks. For next year's awards, we will revise the event formats to ensure that all the recipients are duly honored without adding to the length of the program. At this time, Dennis Washington, chairman of the association's nominating committee, will review the committee's recommendations regarding new directors to be elected to the board, existing directors whose term of service are up for renewal, and directors who shall be appointed to the executive committee.
Thank you, Matt. As chairman of the nominating committee, it is my pleasure to share the following with the board of directors today. The nominating committee recommended that the following individuals, all of whom have been members for a minimum of 2 years, served as new directors on the board for 4 years, terms beginning in 2020 and ending in 2024. Mark Davis, Alfonso Jackson, Mike Jackson, Clarence Otis, and Robert Shelgold. These proposed directors have been firmly voted as directors for the membership through mail-in ballots. According to the association's bylaws, board members must serve consecutive 4-year terms if re-elected by the membership. The criteria for determining directors' eligibility to serve an additional term includes attendance at one of the last 3 board meetings, participating in association programs, and financial support for the association. Based on these criteria, the nominating committee has recommended the following directors to serve another consecutive 4-year term on the board beginning in 2020 and ending in 2024. Lee Anderson, Bob Brown, Dino Corapasi, Lou Dobbs, who is an honorary director, Foster Fries, Terry Giles, Jack Gill, Ellen Miller, Carl Riker, David Stewart, Peter Scott, Jeff Rich, Harry Rinker, Lynn Stearns, Clarence Thomas, who is also an honorary director, and lastly, Sid Walk. Our membership has already approved the term renewals for these directors through mailed-in ballots. Lastly, the nominating committee is recommending the appointment of Greg Abel to the executive committee as vice president and brings this forth to the board for approval through action agenda, which will be circulated following this meeting. That concludes the report from the nominating committee, and we would now invite Greg Abel to address the board of directors. Greg, I think I can speak for all the Horatio Algers. I would like to thank you for accepting this position as vice president of the Horatio Alger Association, and thanks for your dedication.
Thank you, Dennis, and thank you to the Board of Directors for nominating and entrusting me to serve as Vice President of this outstanding membership organization. I'm deeply honored to serve at a time when our scholars need our leadership, support, and guidance more than ever. We know what defines Horatio Alger scholars is their strength, resilience, and commitment to success, despite the challenges they may face. And it is how we treat them and help them that matters most. As Jim spoke to earlier, the generosity of our members and friends has enabled us to expand educational programs and support services for both scholars and alumni. Proactive and individual outreach to scholars has increased significantly, assisting them with financial aid, college selection, and more. For the first time, we launched a Scholar Emergency Support Program to assist students who are facing significant challenges such as food insecurity, homelessness, and unemployment, which can unfortunately undermine a scholar's academic success. This emergency support has been needed in these past months and more than ever, and we have distributed in excess of $200,000 in emergency funding to 364 scholars. As a membership, this work is essential to establishing a long-term relationship with our scholars. We hope to welcome many of them as future members as they pursue the American dream through our free enterprise system. To help support their dreams, we continue to strengthen the supplemental programs offered to our scholars. This includes enhancing and supporting our Scholar Alumni Association, accommodating the distinct needs of CTE scholars during their career-focused education. We also provide stipends so scholars can take advantage of unpaid internships. Scholars receive personalized online accounts where they can access resources to help navigate college life. The association further provides scholars with 24/7 emotional and mental health support services, critical services for these students. We continue to build out and expand these programs to meet the changing needs of our scholars and the world around them. Ensuring the American dream for the next generation is such an important component of our mission. We should be proud of the work we've done, and we should feel energized as we move forward. I'm excited to embrace this new role for the association. We as members are uniquely positioned to come together to serve and support our scholars in such critical ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg, for your thoughtful and inspiring words. This is an association rich with leaders who never fail to respond to the call to serve. We're grateful for your willingness to step into this important role in support of our scholars and this membership.
So as we conclude this portion of our meeting, we are grateful for your comments and questions. If you require additional information regarding the matters discussed today or have further questions that have not been answered, please let us know and we'll follow up with you directly. As I shared earlier, we will be issuing an action agenda after this meeting for you to provide feedback and vote on these key matters. Once tabulated, the results of the action agenda will be shared with the Board of Directors, Executive Committee, and the Endowment Fund Board. Traditionally, our annual awards events, we acknowledge those members, life partners, and friends of distinction whom we've lost over the past year. We celebrate their remarkable lives and exceptional contributions to our world. We take that moment now to remember their commitment and to honor their generosity in sharing their time, talent, and resources in support of this association. While their passing leaves us saddened, we remember that each one demonstrates the power of a life well lived. These men and women have made an indelible mark on this association, and they will never be forgotten. Please join us as we pay tribute to those members, life partners, and friends of distinction who've passed away since April 2019.
We thank you for taking time to join us for this important meeting. Your leadership is deeply appreciated as the association continues to respond to the evolving needs of our scholars and engage in the critical work of supporting these young men and women. Proper governance will continue to guide us as an organization. And we can be confident that we will be together again. We look forward to the moment when we can reconvene to celebrate our association and our work as we remain committed to ensuring the American dream for generations to come. In lieu of a membership meeting this year, we will package today's reports and videos and share them with the entirety of our membership in the coming weeks. As noted previously, we will be sending the Board of Directors an action agenda following this meeting for additional feedback and voting. With that, This meeting of the Horatio Alger Association Board of Directors is now adjourned. In closing, please enjoy this inspiring performance of God Bless America, featuring our scholars in salute of our association and members.
While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair. As we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above.